What is up, Hot Wheels racing fans? You're watching the NASCAR Nitro Series on the HSL Diecast Racing channel. Today we're heading back to Bristol Motor Speedway, where we haven't seen since the Great Demolition Derby of 2024. Because there's nothing more American than short track racing at night, or somewhat at night, as late as my camera will let me film. It's the FREEBIRD 500 at Bristol. And can you believe we'll be a quarter of the way through the season already when this is all said and done? We're changing up qualifying a little bit just because of the sheer amount of space that all these videos of slow motion takes on my phone. We're shooting this at normal speed. Got Amber Beach beats the Owlman for the first lap, and now we have Misty G over Stacy Thompson. That's a DNF for him. Lucas Sattler Jr. takes it over Gavin McSpadden. And now here's Skeeter Davis up against Marcus Skidis. A lot of these drivers in the first round, especially the first half of the first round, it's going to be pretty wide gap between first and second. Like here, Coffee Tart easily takes it over her competitor now. And here we have Bishop Petty Jr. going up against Kenzie in the 11. Now we have Atomic Bob going up against Slick Fitty. Nice fight by Slick Fitty. So some speed there. Now Harry Hoon trying to avoid a DNQ like last week, and well, a Luca Yode Osasanya DNQs instead. He's on his roof, a hard DNQ for him. Now we have Harry Hoon's teammate Burt Buzzard. Now we have last week's winner Thomas Elliott going up against Russ, or Gray. That was Gray, I believe. Yes, indeed, it was Gray. A hard DNQ for him. And now here's when we're going to slow down and replay. It's RJ McCready and Carl Wrecko. The gates are down. It looks like it's going to be an early blowout, like a lot of these matchups in the first half of the first round are. But look at this. RJ McCready gets squirrely, and Carl Wrecko gets a run, almost beats him to the line, just runs out of real estate. Now we have Baby Richie going up against Cyan. It's essentially going to be a hard DNQ for Cyan. That's stalling that high up on the track with all these other second-place drivers that are finishing. And Ratha got a top 10 at Texas Motor Speedway. Looks pretty dominant there. Killa Kowalski coming off of his first career podium. Easy win for him. A great run by Gale Force. Would have made it into the main event had it not been for bad luck on the last lap of her segment last week. Crazy Ruby beats out JJ Smooth. And now we have Gaza takes it over Osasanya Jr. Now we have Sawyer and his teammate Rick Mast. That's another one we're going to slow down. If you watch this replay, the two Uncle Elvis teammates, Rick Mast does not give up here. Barely a car length lead heading into the turns. Rick Mast on his bumper the whole time. Great drive for him. Look out for him in the B-Series race. Riot Isaac takes that one over Donald McSpadden, who's probably going to have the pole for the B-Series race, being the 28 seed. And look at this. Cooter Smith almost beats out Vinny Nightlife. Here we have Chewy and Lucky Jackson. And look at this brutal reverse side draft that Lucky throws on Chewy. Almost knocks him off of the track. Great recovery by Chewy there, but he might still miss the B-Series race based on seeding, because most of these other second-place drivers are still finishing the lap. And only 30 drivers can be in the B-Series race. And take a look at what just happened here. Thunderbolt Joe beats out Sonic coming off of a seconds race appearance on the outside. Does not give up on the outside of the track. Keeps it side by side. Flies across the finish line. Showboating a little bit. Great start for Thunderbolt Joe. Locks himself into the field. And we got to see what the speed seedings is to see if Sonic makes it back into the round of 48. He is a pretty high seed. He should make it back in. A couple more. Now here are two members of the Petty family. Cowell Petty locks himself in there, turning his season around, coming off of his first career main event. Kid Zach beats out Racer Gnome, and Puff beats out Tristan Racewelski. Here we have John Trent and Lazy A, and look at this. Lazy A on the outside beats them out by sheer speed. Now we have Sparky Racer going up against Rowan. Rowan's going to take it. Kid Charlemagne and Jim Douglas in the legendary Love Bug. Now Herbie Now, no sign of Irish Coffee this time, beats him out by a track segment. And here's another real close one. Two Taurus Stalkers teammates. Johnny, what the hell is a kilometer Benson, going up against your defending champion William. Both of them Uncle Elvis teammates, and Johnny with a single car length lead heading into the fat track. But look at this run that William gets side by side. Almost takes it, but it's going to be Johnny Benson by a bumper length. And as we get to the middle of round number 2, we're going to have more and more close races like this. It's Rotha for Uncle Elvis Racing and Marcus Skidis for Skid Marks Racing, side by side. And Rotha with the early advantage, but look at this. Marcus Skidis not giving up, makes it side by side in the turn, beats out Rotha by a bumper length at the line. Look at that. Marcus Skidis outmuscles the extraterrestrial. And now we have Tails going up against Karate Joe. It's going to be Karate Joe by a car length. Now we have Trick Dickel going up against Bubba Wallace. I'm sorry, that's not Bubba Wallace. That's William Byron. Bubba Wallace already went. He's pretty high in the points. William Byron, a hard DNQ, while Nomeo beats out Jabo from the outside. Now here we have Gale going up against Sterling Marlin. And cautions out for an El Wrecko. Sterling Marlin off the track and on his side. A hard DNQ for Sterling Marlin, whose season is not what he had expected it to be. Another outside win. And that marks the end of the first round. All the cars that stalled short on their wheels, those are hard DNQs. The number of finishers, and we have 4 of the highest seeded second place finishers back into the round of 48. Starting with Ted Musgrave going up against Amber Beach. She locks herself into the round of 24. Now look at this, Richard Petty putting up a fight against Misty G. And look at this, they stay side by side throughout the entire split track and most of the fat track. Look at this, Misty G does not get the advantage till the middle of the fat turn. Richard Petty putting up a fight in that Tune Charger. Rotha not so much against Lucas Sattler. And the last driver to get in on seating is Sonic. Puts up a decent fight against Skeeter Davis, but it's Skeeter Davis you're talking about. He takes the win by a car length. And here we have Coffee Tart going up against Lazy A. And now we have Deuce Andretti going up against Jim Douglas. And Jim Douglas gets a little squirrely there. Deuce Andretti runs away with it. Bishop Petty Jr. going up against Marcus Skidis. And it's not the Racer Gnome teammates, it's Atomic Bob. And Atomic Bob moves on to the round of 24. And we have a pair of Australian stars here. Jimbo Rockford beats out Harry Hoon on the outside. And now it's Burt Buzzard going up against Gale. Burt Buzzard makes easy work, wins by a car length plus. Thomas Elliott by 2 or 3 car lengths there. Dominant run for him. Trick Dickel going up against RJ McCready. And RJ throws a block as he crosses the finish line. Puts himself into the round of 24. It's going to be Bubba Wallace. Punches his ticket, as does Baby Richie. Now we have Killa Kowalski going up against Rowan. Killa Kowalski with a 2-car length lead. Rowan catches up a little bit. Not enough real estate there. Crazy Ruby takes the W over Kid Zach. And now we have Cowell Petty going up against Gaza, the hot rookie versus the veteran. And Gaza's experience wins over there. And now we have Flip Gambino takes it over Ratha from the outside. Next is Remy 12 Gauge going up against Sawyer. Remy 12 Gauge moves on to the round of 24, as does Gator McCluskey from the outside. And now we have Po Boy and Kyle Petty. Po Boy gets a little squirrely there. Kyle Petty moves on to the round of 24. As does Lucky Jackson, beats out Vinny Nightlife from the outside. And that brings us to the end of the round of 48. We have 24 cars left in contention for the pole, and the field is going to shrink by half once again after this round. Kicking things off, it's Amber Beach going up against Jimbo Rockford. And the gates are down. Amber Beach with a car length lead heading towards the bottom of the split track. They both get squirrely heading into the first turn, but it's going to be Amber Beach that holds on for the win, moves on to the round of 12. And up next, we have Misty G going up against Flip Gambino. And heading into the turn, they both get sideways almost simultaneously. Finish the lap in reverse. It's going to be Misty G moving on to the round of 12. And up next, we have Lucas Sattler Jr. going up against Gator McCluskey. And a solid lead for Lucas, smooth as butter through the turns. Gator McCluskey on his back bumper. Not enough real estate to get past him. It's going to be Lucas going to the round of 12. And now Kyle Petty and Skeeter Davis side by side heading towards the bottom of the track. Skeeter Davis with a slight advantage. Reverse side drafts Kyle Petty to take the win as he moves on. And now it's Bobby Allison going up against Lucky Jackson. And once again, the 2 drivers are side by side heading to the bottom of the turn. Bobby Allison in the turn, side drafts Lucky Jackson to advance on. And now we have Coffee Tart going up against Remy 12 Gauge. The gates are down. Remy 12 Gauge still side by side with Coffee Tart. They both get a little bit of air heading into the turns, and Remy 12 Gauge makes the pass on the outside to advance to a top 12 starting spot. And now we have Deuce Andretti going up against Gaza. And look at this, side by side. They're beating and banging the whole length of the track. It's going to be Deuce Andretti with the advantage at the very end, which now brings us to Bishop Petty Jr. and Crazy Ruby. The gates are down, and look at this, Bishop Petty Jr. absolutely flying away from Crazy Ruby before they even get into the turn. An absolute dominant performance by Bishop Petty Jr. And up next, we have Atomic Bob going up against Gale Force. And it's Gale Force on the outside with about a car length lead heading into the turn. Her lead is going to keep on growing heading towards the finish line. She wins by 2-3 car lengths. And now let's see if Killa Kowalski can do the same from the outside. He's up against the defending champion, Burt Buzzard, and they are still side by side. Look at that hit. Burt Buzzard throws at Killa Kowalski. And it's too close to call for almost the whole lap. We got to show you this on the replay. Still glued side by side, heading towards the finish line. And it's going to be Killa Kowalski by literally the length of his hood. What an incredible segment that was. And now let's see if Thomas Elliott and Baby Richie can do the same thing. It's going to be Thomas Elliott, though, flying away with the segment. But look at this. Baby Richie gets a burst of speed heading into the turns, but it was definitely not enough. Thomas Elliott advances to the round of 12. And now we have last grouping of the round of 24. RJ McCready going up against Bubba Wallace, and it's pretty obvious who wins there. Bubba Wallace bins it in the middle of the turn. And now we're down to our final 12 drivers. Kicking it off for the round of 12 is teammates Amber Beach and Remy 12 Gauge. Both of them driving mechanically similar cars, but wildly different results for the season so far. Amber Beach with a track segment lead heading towards the bottom of the track. She's won 2 out of the 3 races so far this year, and Remy's bad luck continues with a DNF, which brings us to Misty G. She's gotten a top 5 in each of the 3 races so far. Still looking for that first career win, though. And she's got a hard-charging gale force right on her tail, but manages to hold her off to move on to the round of 6. And up next, another pair of LCDRL teammates. This time it's 2 of FPD's guys, Lucas Sattler Jr. and Killa Kowalski. And look at that. We've got some teammate-on-teammate violence. I got to show you this again. And here we see Lucas Sattler Jr. slide up the track. There's no room for both of them. And Killa Kowalski just gets absolutely destroyed. What a rough landing for him. Now it's time for the next set of drivers, and it's Skeeter Davis going up against RJ McCready. And Skeeter Davis gets a little squirrely, throws the car in reverse, showboats across the finish line. It's safe to say the Skeeter Davis of 2025 is back. And up next we have Thomas Elliott going up against Bobby Allison. Bobby's fishtailing on the straightaway, loses a bunch of speed that way, and it's going to be Thomas Elliott moving on to the next round. And now we have our final set of drivers for this round of 12. Deuce Andretti and Bishop Petty Jr. still side by side, and it's too close to call. We got to slow this down. As you can see on the replay coming out of the turn, it looks like it's going to be Deuce Andretti by literally a millimeter, and that is Deuce Andretti in the freeze frame, just barely beats him out by a bumper length. What an exciting way to close out the round of 12. And now we have our final 6 drivers going at it for the pole position. And here we have our only 2 drivers to win a race so far this year, Amber Beach and Thomas Elliott. Amber with a half a car length lead, side drafts Thomas Elliott, strands him on the guardrail in the middle of the turn. It's a miracle he didn't DNF there. Now let's see if Misty G can beat out Deuce Andretti. The gates are down. Deuce Andretti, they both get a little squirrely coming out of the turn, but it's going to be Misty G that holds him off. And finally, we have Lucas Sattler Jr. going up against Skeeter Davis. And Lucas Sattler Jr. with a car length lead heading into the turns, smooth as butter, gets a little bit sideways but recovers in time to take the checkered flag. And now we have our final round robin for the pole. Kicking it off is Amber Beach going up against Lucas Sattler Jr. The first driver to 2 wins gets the pole position. The next driver with 1 win starts second. Now we have Amber Beach, who's the highest in points out of the 3, with the inside lane advantage. A car length lead over Misty G heading into the turns, and they cross the line single file. Now this is the race for second place. Misty G starting on the inside, Lucas Sattler Jr. on the outside, still side by side, heading towards the bottom of the track. Lucas Sattler with a half a car length slides off of Misty's quarter panel. It's going to be Amber Beach, your pole sitter, and Lucas Sattler Jr. starting second. And now that we have the bulk of the starting lineup figured out, let's get ready for our B Series race. Considering this is a holiday and we just celebrated America's 250th birthday, I've decided at the last minute to make this a 6th crown jewel event. That's right, it's going to have 60 cars in it, so the top 12 finishers of your Nitro B Series race are going to be getting into the big race. And we're going to kick things off with our pole sitter, Donald McSpadge. Next to him, Johnson Jr. In the second row for segment number 1, Rick Mast and William Uncle Elvis teammates, followed by Russ and Sloppy Bear, Cooter Smith and Violet, followed by Twinkie Jake and Fuel Tank Frank rounding out the field. It's set by Speed Week seed due to the large number of cars that finished the lap in second place, and cautions out for the first El Wrecko of the day. Your pole sitter, Donald McSpadge, doesn't even make it 1 lap. It's a triple DNF, as Violet and William also ended up on their roofs and out of the race. Now it's time for lap number 2 with an extra pusher. The gates are down. Johnson Jr. flying away with Cooter Smith, bump drafting right behind him. He throws a block on the rest of the field, side drafts Cooter and Rick Mast, and now it's Sloppy Bear's turn to land on his roof, and now the gates are down for the final lap of segment number 1. And Cooter Smith on the outside lane gets his wheels in the air but manages to recover, throws a block on Johnson Jr. It'll be Cooter Smith to the main event, Johnson Jr. to the seconds race. And there is Russ. He must have some kind of mechanical issue. We'll fix that before we head off to Watkins Glen. And that brings us to segment number 2. On the front row is John Trent. Kind of a shock seeing him in a B-Series race next to Lord Shank, who won the last B-Series race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Behind them, Uncle Elvis teammates of Elias and Jeff Bodine, JJ Smooth in a Silverado and Kenzie in a Tundra, followed by Slick Fitty, Marcus Skidis, Gavin McSpadge, and Racer Gnome. The gates are down for lap number 1. Look at this. John Trent shoves Lord Shank onto the guardrail, sends him upside down, but Lord Shank gets his revenge, pushes him off the track upside down, and cautions out for the biggest El Wrecko in the history of the channel. We got a quintuple DNF. That is right, a quintuple DNF. As you can see, after John Trent loses control of his car and bunches up the field, 3 cars, Kenzie, Cooter Smith, and Donald McSpadge, all lose momentum in the middle of the turn, end up on the roofs, as well as Skidis Marcus, who goes off the outside of the track. We have only half the field on the field for lap number 2, and Elias, with that extra pusher, gets a great start down the track in a single file line. I don't think they want to repeat what happened in the last segment, because all 5 of these guys have a pretty good chance of qualifying for the race now. The gates are down for the final lap of the segment, and John Trent, making his car 2 lanes wide, holds off a hard-charging JJ Smooth and John Trent. JJ on the outside gains the momentum on Elias, but once again runs out of space before the finish line. As it is now, JJ Smooth to the seconds race and Elias to the main event. And now we're down to the final segment of your B-Series race. On the front row are the Abby Normal teammates of Abby Normal and Kid Charlemagne. Behind them, J-Bo and Tails, the HSL teammates of Tristan Racewelski and Carl Wrecko. Murray for Lear Fixer Racing, and Ruby, not to be confused with Crazy Ruby, Skid Mark, and Sparky Racer. The gates are down. J-Bo and Abby Normal, both owner-drivers, bump draft their way into first and second. J-Bo barely holds off Kid Charlemagne for second place coming to the line. And now we have the Abby Normal teammates forming a drafting pair. And look at this. They're getting a push by Tails, one of the heavier cars in the field for this segment. And cautions out for an El Wrecko. We got Tristan Racewelski on his side. Ruby safe on her wheels. Carl safe on his wheels. He did a somersault there. We have one more car in the outfield. It's on his roof and out of the race. And that's Abby Normal, the team owner for Abby Normal Racing. Kid Charlemagne off the track, but still on his wheels. Him and Ruby are going to lose a ton of track position here. You could also see Skid Mark on his side in the middle of the turn. That's a triple DNF. 7 cars left. It looks like we have some mechanical issues for Sparky Racer. Meanwhile, everybody ahead of him, a tight pack heading into the turns. Looks like Murray's on his roof and out of it. And Carl Wrecko, what the heck is he doing? He bins it on the straightaway before he even gets into the turns. Another double DNF heading into the final lap. We got 5 cars left out of the original 10-car field. That is a total of 14 cars, as long as there's no more DNFs in this segment, competing for 12 spots in the big race. And the gates are down for the final lap of segment racing. J-Bo and Kid Charlemagne bump drafting out of the start. Now Kid Charlemagne makes a move for the lead. They're side by side at the finish line. Who gets it? It's going to be J-Bo. Another epic finish to close out the segment racing of this B-Series race. It's J-Bo by a bumper length. You can see here in the freeze frame, he beats out Kid Charlemagne by just a millimeter. Congratulations on J-Bo making the main event and Kid Charlemagne to the seconds race. And now it's time for your 4th and 5th race. That's right, the 4th and 5th race, as Rick Mast and Russ were the only 6th and 7th place finishers in the segment racing. And now the gates are down for the single lap 4th and 5th race, and it's Racer Gnome with a car length lead on the outside. Sparky attempted to throw a pit maneuver there, but masterful driving by Racer Gnome to lock himself into the race. Sparky Racer and Jeff Bodine will be credited with 11th and 12th. They are in. Fuel Tank Frank and Ruby are out. And now it's time for your 3rd race. On the front row is John Trent and Sonic. Behind them, Twinkie Jake and Racer Gnome, who just won the 4th and 5th race. The gates are down. John Trent pulls off to a car length lead over Sonic. Smooth as butter, clean racing throughout the turns. They finish in a single file line. John Trent moves on to the seconds race. And this, like all seconds races, will be 2 laps long, and the gates are down. John Trent stalls, and Johnson Jr. flying away from Kid Charlemagne for the first lap. And now JJ Smooth making a move for second place on Kid Charlemagne. It's going to be JJ Smooth that takes second. Now that the gates are down for lap 2, he's on the outside making a push for the lead. It's JJ Smooth with half a car length lead heading out of the turn. They are side by side, and JJ Smooth side drafts Johnson Jr. to the point where John Trent takes second place from him, slides across the line, and punches his ticket to the main event, where he joins Elias on the pole next to J-Bo, followed by Cooter Smith making his first ever main event in the Nitro B Series. And now the gates are down. Look at J-Bo flying away from the rest of the pack, but Elias catches up in the turn. Side drafts J-Bo, throws a block to keep the lead. Heading into lap number 2, Cooter Smith on his side and out of the race. That's a definite El Wrecko for him. And here is your podium. Elias, J-Bo, and JJ Smooth. Does anybody have anything for Elias? And he is loving what he sees behind him. JJ Smooth and J-Bo fighting it out over second place. Meanwhile, they cross the line in single file. All three of these drivers looking for their first career win on this channel. And the gates are down for the final lap. Elias, with that pusher, comes out to a car length lead over both of the Jays. He's making his car 2 lanes wide like John Girard in Talladega Nights. Side drafts off of J-Bo, strands him on the guardrail, and crosses the line in first. Elias bumps and grinds his way to his first ever career NASCAR Nitro B Series win. JJ Smooth and J-Bo take the podium. Congratulations to Uncle Elvis Racing. Won 2 out of the 4 Nitro B Series races so far this year. JJ Smooth should inherit the points lead with this second place finish, his first career top 5. Some great driving, tons of razor thin finish margins. What an awesome race and an awesome drive by Elias, whose season looked to be dead in the water just a few races ago. Making his first race since the Daytona 500, and JJ Smooth will be making his debut. Slick Fitty and John Trent round out your top 5. Kid Charlemagne, Johnson Jr., Tails, Racer Gnome, and Twinkie Jake round out your top 10. Sparky Racer and Jeff Bodine are also going to make the field for the big race at Bristol. Congratulations to all 12 of these guys getting into the race. And this is going to be your starting lineup. On the pole position, Amber Beach. The other segment poles, Lucas Sattler Jr., Misty G, Skeeter Davis, last week's winner, Thomas Elliott, and Deuce Andretti. Some other drivers to watch out for are Killa Kowalski on the front row, Bobby Allison, and Crazy Ruby starting right behind the pole sitter. A lot of fast cars, a stacked race. I've got a feeling this is going to be one for the ages. And here's a look at the rest of the field that did not make it into the race. Fuel Tank Frank, Ruby, and Rick Mast, as well as Russ, did not make it into the field even though they finished their segments. Russ had some mechanical damage on the first lap of his segment and stalled on the split track in the second lap, so he'll be repaired before the start of the Watkins Glen qualifying, so he'll have a chance to qualify there. And we had 14 El Wreckos. Russ, the lowest finishing finisher of his segment. Sloppy Bear, the highest finishing El Wrecko. That's a little more than I wanted for a 30-car field, but I'll make a couple of little changes to the track. Reposition the support of the overturned flower pot I had underneath the split track portion. I might move that further back so it's smoother. I mean, not perfectly smooth. It's Bristol. It's a violent track in real life, but we're looking at under 28 DNFs because a field twice as big, that's like the same equivalent, 28 out of 60, 14 out of 30. That's what I'll be happy with. But anyway, here's a look at your point standings. JJ Smooth, with his second place finish, takes a 33-point lead over Nomeo, who qualified into the big race on speed. This begs the question, what will some of these drivers want to do later on in the season? Shoot for the B Series title or try to get their way into the top 44 of the main series points? Decisions. It's a tough decision to make, especially for guys like Nomeo and Tristan Racewelski. They're in the top 5. Russ and Murray, they've been steady mainstays in the B Series, as well as Sloppy Bear through Racer Gnome. And here we have Carl Wrecko down to 11th place through 25th. William, actually your Daytona winner. One of those guys on the margins I was talking about. Olukayode Osisanya Jr. with his DNQ slides down the point standings. We have Lord Shank, last week's winner, up to 24th. These 2 starts were his only B Series starts so far. And now we have 25 through 40 in the point standings. J-Bo with his podium in 26 gains a lot of points there. Karate Joe, he's improving in the Nitro Series, the main series, with the top 10 at Texas Motor Speedway. He might not be in a lot of B Series races from here on. And here we have 41 through 52, a lot of the mainstays in the Nitro Series who just simply had a bad day in qualifying one week or another. And the back markers. Out to avoid finishing last in the point standings. And that so far is going to be Cowell Petty, who had a bad qualifying day and then ended up DNFing and finishing last in his only B Series start. He's coming off a top 5 and a strong qualifying run in the main race series. So being on the last page of these standings could be deceiving. I mean, Flip Gambino's in the low 40s. He competes for top 10s week in and week out. If you want to see your car race in videos like this, or if you're just under the impression that I'm talking about you when I say back markers, send your cars, send your new and improved replacement cars to HSL Diecast, P.O. Box 7, Wing Gap, Pennsylvania 18091. And always remember to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. We'll see you out there on the track.